Yeah, EA do that a lot, Rage, I agree. Your face is tired, Johan. Yeah, I'm assuming you're making a reference to the Andromeda characters, yeah. It was the dead eyes. They gave their faces no expression. It was like a puppet was standing there and the mouth was moving most of the time, not in time to the words that it was supposed to be saying. And the eyes look completely dead. You know, any character artist, and I have a few friends in the industry who do character art, that's all they do, will tell you that the subtle expression around the eyes and the mouth is really important for character work to make things look alive and not dead. Oh no, that's a line that one of the characters said. Yeah, well, yeah. But anyway, I don't want to bag it too much. I know that a lot of guys love Andromeda. Not everybody disliked it. And I just think that they pushed it out too soon. I think if they'd given the dev team a bit longer to work on things, it would have been a better game. And they've made improvements to it. They've released patches and stuff. I haven't played it since, but I'm assuming it's better. But yeah, EA can tend to push stuff out a bit too soon, I think, sometimes with their games. What's the company that made the Watch Dogs games as well? They can push stuff out a bit too early as well, I think. They made, the guys that made the Assassin's Creed games. Don't get me wrong, Assassin's Creed games are great. But they just seem to be pushing them out yearly now. It's like a franchise. The angry woman you met when you get to the big... Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about in Andromeda. Yep. Ubisoft, that's it, Rage. Yep, Ubisoft. Yep. Ubisoft have made some great Assassin's Creed games. But like I said, I just get the environments as well are amazing. The last Assassin's Creed game, the one that was set in France, I think it was. Not the very last one, but the one before that. I think it was set in France. The work of the environment and the meshes, the props was amazing. They did really, really nice work. I can never fault them for their texture work or their environments or meshes and props. They always do a really nice job. Amazingly nice job for the amount of time that they push them out, because they do it yearly, it seems. Assassin's Creed hasn't, Johan says, hasn't been interesting since Brotherhood. Yeah, a lot of people feel that way. I'm not a big Assassin's Creed player. I watch a lot of playthroughs of Assassin's Creed, but I generally don't play the game. Because I have a fear of heights, and it freaks me out when you've got to start climbing those buildings and jumping off of that lookout to get back down again. That just freaks me out because I have a fear of heights, so I don't play the Assassin's Creed games. Shadow of Mordor was really good. Rage, yeah, I've heard that too. I haven't played Shadow of Mordor either. But I have heard good things, and it's actually on sale, I think, in a lot of places too now. So you can pick Shadow of Mordor up pretty cheaply. Johan says that Unity had amazing visuals and it ran like crap. Yeah, that's always the problem. They either push the engine too hard and make the engine crawl, or they don't push it hard enough and make the game look like crap. VR Skydive, don't say that, Zerbian, that freaked me out. I don't use VR, I don't have a VR headset, but yeah, I could imagine in VR that would just be, ugh. It's bad enough watching it on a screen. I can't imagine being in VR. No. Maybe that's the other reason I haven't really gotten into VR, because of all those roller coaster rides and stuff that have freaked me out too. Just heights, I have real fear of heights. Yeah. Johan says that would be in the horror category in the VR store. Yeah, I agree. You know, I have tried VR. Don't get me wrong. I've tried VR. I just I find it uncomfortable sometimes to have that thing strapped to your face. After a while, my head starts to feel really hot, and I know it's there. You know what I mean? I know I can feel this thing strapped to me, which is a shame because I think potential for VR is really, really great. But I just don't think it's taking off mainstream because number one, cost, because it's not cheap to get an Oculus or a Vive. And number two, people don't like having things stuck to their face. Not big things anyway. And the heat, because the screens give off a lot of heat. It gets uncomfortable. So until they can sort of make maybe a headset that isn't so bulky, I don't think that the general public are going to really embrace it the way they want them to. Don't get me wrong, millions of the PlayStation VR headsets have been sold. And so it's doing quite well. But when you consider that, you know, tens, hundreds of millions of games are sold in the ecosystem, it's not great take up. And of course the problem is if they're not selling a lot of headsets, then they're not going to make the games for it because they need the return on the investment. So skydiving with clowns, Rage says. I don't mind clowns. Clowns are fine. Rage says just a regular headset gets uncomfortable after hours of use. Yeah, I agree. It does with me too. And like I said, I've tried VR, and I like the immersion that VR gives you, but it just gets hot and uncomfortable having this thing strapped to your head. Yeah, and I think that's that and the fact that some people get sick as well, even though with the Oculus and the Vive, it's much better. Some people still can feel physically ill. So until, yeah, but I think the major hurdle for VR is having this massive thing strapped to your head. People don't want that. That's the reason 3D TV didn't take off. It's because you had to wear glasses, and people don't want to sit down to watch a movie and stick glasses on. They just don't want to do it. And that's why 3D TV is dead. You know, I think you've got one manufacturer now that still does 3D TVs. The rest of them have stopped doing it. And the reason it didn't take off was not because the experience wasn't interesting or good. It was because people don't want to have to wear something. They don't want to put things on their head. Yeah. Now, augmented reality, that's different, I think, because the headwear is much lighter. Like if you think about Google Glass, you know, it's a light headset, so it's not so uncomfortable to wear. And augmented reality, I think, will make a bigger impact in the long run than VR does now. Johan says when they have a Geordie LaForge like visor, yeah, with a wireless connection to the PC. No, I agree. I think, you know, if it's a really light headset that you put on, like more like glasses as opposed to a box you stick over your eyes, I think then it has the potential to take off. And that's why I think that augmented reality will take off before virtual reality really does. Simply because they can make it much lighter to wear, not as cumbersome. So, and people can still see their environment while they're wearing them. So I think, yeah, augmented reality will be bigger than VR initially. I think eventually VR will be bigger than augmented reality. But it's just too early for VR. It's still too early. They're still going to develop the stuff much more before the general public will take to it. No, you're right, Johan. Technology isn't there yet. That's right. So the tech and the cost. They've got to improve the technology and bring down the cost to get VR into mainstream. You know, I know a lot of tech geeks love it, and that's great. And I've tried it, and it's cool. But yeah, the general public aren't like most of us guys that play games constantly and work on PCs constantly. They don't care about that sort of stuff. They just want something that's cheap, that's easy and comfortable. And VR is none of those things at the moment. So I think Mr. Zuckerberg investing billions of dollars, into Oculus might have been a bit premature. But hey, if they don't invest in it, then eventually it'll never get better, so hey. And Mark has the money to spend on Facebook, so I'm sure it's all good. Do remember though, Oculus have just reduced the price of their VR headset. I think it's still on sale at the moment for a few more weeks. Zerbian says VR is only good for one thing. Yes, you're probably right. I think I know what you mean. I think that industry has embraced VR in a big way. Although I still think it'd be incredibly uncomfortable to have that thing strapped to your face. Even for that. But you're right, I think they have embraced it in a big way. We're talking about the adult entertainment industry here, or I am anyway. Medical imaging, that's exactly right, Johan, that's exactly what I mean. Medical imaging, yes. I can push you back just a little bit more. We all know what we mean. I might pull this curtain in a little actually. It's sticking out a bit too far from the edge. We'll bring the shear in. Yeah, everybody needs a hobby, don't they? Nothing wrong with that. I may pull this one in a little bit as well. I think that'll be better. I'm going to take the shear in too. I just don't want it sticking past the edge of the curtain. Alright. Well, let's fix this side now that we've got this side done. Let's do it all at the same time though. Let's grab everything. And duplicate it. Yeah, but getting back to favourite projects and things, I really like the Unreal Engine because of the real-time aspect to it. You don't have to wait for a render to render out. And that really appeals to me. And like I was saying yesterday, I really like the those physics objects, the fact that you can get things to move in real time through physics. I find that really interesting and really cool. Really cool thing to play with. But I'm one of those guys that likes to, you know, throw blocks around in the Unreal, in the NVIDIA tech demos, you know, the cubes. Or my Be Right Back, my end stream screen, that when I close off for the day, you've got those cubes that are being thrown around on the ground. I'm the sort of person that really likes to do that sort of thing too for fun. Actually, this project taken months. You can actually look on my Twitch page how long I've been working on this. It's probably a couple of months, because remember we had to do all the environment first before we started tackling the interior of the building, Rage. So yeah, a couple of months. But like I've been saying to you guys, if you want to do good work in 3D, you should take your time. You don't rush it. Anything rushed is never good. You can't create good work by rushing. Take your time. Now I know if you're working for a studio, sometimes you don't have that luxury. You've got, like I said, you know, your boss is banging on your desk saying, I want it, I want it, I want it, and I want it now. Or I wanted it yesterday. You know, that's a different problem, but there have still been times where I've told them at work, no, it's not ready and I'm not giving it to you, and I won't give it to you until I think it's ready. And in the long run, they're quite happy with that, because the client the studio doesn't want to give the client a work that isn't finished properly, because the client then will not like it, and that reflects badly on the studio. And it's just a project manager's job to make sure to get it as soon as possible. So they're always saying, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Quote of the year. But yeah, no, take your time. If you're doing anything, take your time. And do it properly. Don't half-ass it. Do it right. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. It's like I might be a bit too high up the wall there. Just move you down a bit. No, I know I've got to hide my gate here, but I don't want to deselect everything I've got before I do that. And Johan says, what did you say, Johan? Sorry, Zerbian said that Sniper Echo took a look at your material and he couldn't see anything wrong. Just from looking at the still that you said, I couldn't see anything wrong either, without looking at the actual material. So it didn't look like there was a problem necessarily in the height map. And Johan says, on an unrelated note, you don't know what I did before they added a curve node to Substance Designer? I don't actually use Substance Designer, I use Substance Painter. And I've used Painter for this level that we're working on now, for a few of the assets, but I haven't used Designer. Designer is supposed to be very good for creating substances, so I'm not sure about the curve node, but I imagine it would be very useful. It's useful in a lot of things. Yeah, no, Substance Designer is a great program to learn. It's a bit too fiddly for me. I'm more of an art side of things. I don't like to mess around so much with creating a substance. I just want to use it. Or paint what I want in. Like I do with Mari, because the other texture program I use is Mari quite a bit, by the Foundry. I've got to get the position here right. But I do like Substance Painter, it does the job really well. But I prefer to do my hand painting in Mari. Simply as Sniper Echo knows, I find with substances they can all start to look the same. Every game is starting to look the same. The wear on the armor on the Knight or in Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, they all look the same because they're all using the same substances and the same generators to create the wear. So I prefer Mari because I can get more of a hand-painted look to it, to my texture. Johan says it's awesome for creating your own tools, like now you're creating a procedural alpha for bolt and screw here. Okay. Yeah, I can imagine it would be. It's very useful, Substance Designer and Substance Painter. You're creating procedural alpha for bolt and tool screw heads. Yeah, I can imagine it would be useful. And do remember too, I have used substances here quite a bit, particularly for the if I can get out here without freaking out OBS. For the ground textures and stuff here, these all use substances. So I can, and they're really handy as, particularly for an environment work, because I can adjust how much water I have lying on the ground through my different substances automatically on the fly inside of Unreal. So it's really handy using substances and making them for things like this. So yeah, no, it's certainly a handy skill to have and a tool to use, particularly in games development. Not so good for film or ArchViz work, simply because the resolution of your textures is just too low. You need, in film work, you need to be working with really large textures, generally. And Mari is the only 3D paint program I'm aware of that can handle that sort of work. But games you don't generally need to go bigger than an 8K texture, so generally you're fine using Substance Painter or Designer. Rage is asking the differences between Painter and Designer. And Johan says, yeah, Painter is more for mesh painting and Designer is more for material creation. That's exactly right. So if I open up Substance Painter here, these substances down the bottom that we see here are made using Substance Designer. So if you want to make your own looking substance that you can then apply in Painter to an object, you would use Substance Designer to make these substances. You fixed it, Serbian? How did you fix it? What was wrong? Tell us all. I'm sure we all want to know what the problem was originally. So yeah, tell us how you fixed it. You have Painter Rage, but you're still new to the program. Yeah, Painter is a great program, and like I said, I've used it in the Unreal level we're working on now. It can take a little while to get familiar with the way that they're laying everything out here. One thing I find really annoying with Painter, let me just open up something here. Let's open up the floor. What is that they seem to be backwards with their sliders than any other 3D program I've used. So this is the floor texture we're using upstairs. I've just added some dirt effect to it. But if we look at the actual textures, when you go to work on them, I don't like this slider business. I've never really liked working with sliders like this. And it seems to be backwards, like going down seems to make something more apparent and going up less apparent. It seems to be the wrong way around to me. Like generally 0 is none and 1 is full, but in Substance Painter I found 0 is full and 1 is none sort of thing, you know what I mean? It just seems backwards to me. It's the wrong way around. Yeah, I'm sure it does. I mean, you can make some really nice textured models using Painter. It's great for that sort of thing. And because it's physically based materials, you can create stuff really quickly and easily and make it look really nice. Johan's asking what resolution my monitor is because text and panels look smaller than yours. I'm working on a 2K monitor, so 2560 by 1440. I have two of them when I work. Generally I'll have my main monitor here that I'm looking at when I'm looking at you guys, is the one that I work on with Max, and then I'll have Photoshop open on my second monitor, which is over to the side here. But they're both 2560 by 1440, yep, and 10-bit panels, so 10-bit color. Because when I do work for the studio, it's really important that the color stays the same, true to what I'm working on. You're still on 1080p? Yeah, 1080p is still fine. I like the bigger 2560 by 1440 gives me more room to position my panels and still see what I'm doing here. So I can still have all this stuff open and still have a good size view of the object I'm working on. The same when I'm working in Max. So the higher the resolution panel, the more room you can have for other things at the same time. But I still work with a second high-res screen over here because I like to have Max open here and Photoshop opened here, or Unreal opened here and Substance Painter opened here. You only see them all on my one screen here because I don't capture my second screen for OBS. I only capture my main screen. I actually been thinking about jumping up to a 4K monitor, but you'd have to go really big in like size-wise in 4K for things not to start to be shrunk down too much. I know you can increase the DPI in Windows to improve text, but I don't like generally doing that. I like to keep my DPI at 100%. So if I go to a 4K monitor, I'm using 27-inch monitors at the moment. I'd have to go up to at least 32-inch, and because of the position of my office here at home, I don't have that much room above where my desk is to actually put a 32-inch monitor, so yeah. That and the fact that the higher the resolution, the more strain you start putting on your video card. Zerbian, what did you send me a pic? Did you send me a picture just now, or? And Johan saying he wishes more programs at high DPI settings. Yeah, I do too. The new version of Max is good now. It used to be really bad on 4K screens, but the 2018 version that I'm using here handles high DPI and high res screens really nicely now. They redid all the interface. They're using Qt5 now, I think is the name of their interface that they use now for Max. So it's all, you can change, if you change the DPI, all the buttons will scale correctly and stuff in Max. So they're getting better. As Zebian says just now on Twitter. Okay, let me have a look. Let me copy this link and I'll check it out. So what are we looking at here? Okay, this is your material. So you're saying you got it working now, Zerbian, yeah? Zerbion. I'm just trying to look at the difference between your materials here. What did you change to fix it, Zerbian? You're masking your RGB, which you weren't doing here. Multiply your absolute world position and tiling. Multiply, unless these are two different materials I'm looking at. You changed the tiling with something you found, okay. Right, okay. Yeah, look, you remember originally when you showed me, you said you're having that problem. I said it was probably a UV problem, which is a tiling problem. I thought that may have been the issue. Thank you, Johan, for the follow as well. That's really good of you. Thank you very much. Yeah, I stream on a Monday and a Tuesday, 5 PM Pacific in the US, so if you want to catch me again, that's when I'm generally streaming. Usually a Wednesday too, but not at the moment because the studio's a bit too busy. Well, that's good to know, and thanks for letting me know, letting everyone know, Zerbian, that the tiling value. I thought it would have either been the tiling value or the. I thought it might have been this tessellation setting here, and that would have been the problem. Or it could have been the height map, but because most of the rest of the texture looked fine, it was less likely to be a problem with the height map. But tiling will certainly be a problem. Can certainly cause problems. I've got to get this curtain in the right spot. Okay, let's deselect that. And let's use that shortcut Sniper Echo told us about, and whoops, wrong one, and hide our gate so we can see what we're doing. And I unhid this one. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to do a comparison here on these two. Again, just simply because I'm trying to make sure I keep consistency on both sides of this room. I'm glad you got it fixed up. Zebian. And like I said, thanks for popping in and showing people how you fixed it. Or telling people what the problem was. Now, probably not too bad. I just want to make sure that these two panels are scaled the same. Even though people aren't generally going to notice, I just want to make sure they're relatively the same. As Evence says, it's weird because he didn't need to touch the UVs. It's one of the materials on... If I use the materials on any static mesh. Ah. You need to change the UVs if you use the materials on a static mesh, okay. Yeah, again though, as Sniper Echo I think mentioned, or actually it wasn't Sniper, I can't remember, it may have been Rage or Johan, I think it might have been Johan, said that the bigger the object, because the ground is much larger than that sphere, so it's going to it's going to affect that differently than it will affect the sphere. So the bigger the object, the different the tiling will need to be. And again, sorry guys for the banging you hear in the background, it's next door. They better finish that today. I'm getting really sick of hearing it. The banging, that is. Let's scale this one. Actually, we'll be scaling it. I think we might have been just hiding parts of it. Yeah. And scaling it. Generally it's pretty quiet here on my stream, so again I'm sorry if you hear banging in the background. Okay. Let's unhide our gate sections now that we don't need to get in there. Find my gate sections, that is. I've really got to start organising these a bit better. I do have most of my stuff in folders, which is a really good way to organise yourself. Zerbian, you did a sub. Thank you very much, dude. I really do appreciate that. That's really good of you. Thank you for the sub. Phil love, showing the Phil love. That's very nice of you, dude. Thank you very much. Do remember, guys, that subs have access to posting links in chat. They can are immune to slow mode. They have access to the emotes, access to my previous videos of streams on Twitch. They have their own chat room on the Phil Does 3D server, which is just for subs. I'm trying to think of what else they have there. I have on my page. I can't remember, but it is below my on my Twitch page. You can read about what subs get that others don't. Immunity to slow mode, all that sort of stuff, and sub only chat. So thank you very much, Zerbian. That really is good of you. I do appreciate it. Thank you. We're finding a gate to unhide it, weren't we? So what I generally do with this level is once we work on it on stream, after the stream I usually do a rebuild on the lighting. I don't do it on stream simply because it takes about a half an hour. And I am using the Swarm agent, so I have it installed on a few different machines here in my network. But it still generally takes about a half an hour to rebuild the lighting, and it's really boring for you guys to sit here watching Unreal rebuild lighting. There we go, they're both back. Alright. We may leave it there for today, guys. I did just want to show you what we're going to be doing with the ceiling really quickly. If I jump into Max, we'll start the ceiling on Monday next week when I'm streaming next. I'll open up the file that we're going to be using for the ceiling. This one here. And explain just quickly what I'm going to be doing with the ceiling section and why I'm doing it the way I am. Okay, so this is what we're going to be using for the ceiling. Now this is not the entire ceiling, this is one part of it. So if I jump into, just pull out a bit here, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to bring this in as one mesh. It uses one texture. I'm going to be duplicating it inside of Unreal to create the actual ceiling pieces. So we're going to be just using the one mesh. Probably instancing it inside of Blueprint so that we use less memory, and just putting them all together in a grid to create our ceiling. I'm also going to be bringing in, I have a piece that's going to be sitting above the chandeliers, the Deco chandeliers, this Deco light mold. So I'm going to bring this molding in, which is going to sit in one of the squares. Waiting for it to rebuild the shader here. Alright, so yeah, we have this molding which the light fitting sits inside of here. And this molding will go just in two spots on the ceiling where the Deco chandeliers are going to be hanging. But these are the actual tiles we're going to be using for the ceiling in that main room. I just wanted something a bit more ornate and a bit more interesting because that's a feature room in that building. So we're going to do that. Zebian says, finally your scenes in UE4 can have more detail. Yeah, that's right. And doing the instancing inside a Blueprint in Unreal is a really good way to still reduce your poly count but get a really detailed looking mesh. Which is what we've done for these curtains. These curtains use tassels, and these tassels are actually a three-dimensional object. If I sort of move around it here. Having that many tassels on a curtain though can really slow down your game. So what we did was we created a Blueprint instance of that object. So again, if I just jump into my blueprints here, and we look at the curtain. Now this uses what I'm calling a hardware instance. Actually, it's not this curtain, it's the other one. A hardware instance, which means that it's only going to be read into memory once, and so you're going to say poly count, memory count, as well as draw calls, because we set up an instance static mesh for one of those tassels, and then we create an array for the other 54 tassels that run around the outside of the curtain. But as far as the game or the graphics card is concerned, it's only reading one of those tassels into memory. All the others are just referenced in the hardware on the GPU. So you can get a lot of detail and use the least amount of memory that way. And we'll probably end up doing that for our roof sections here, like these sections of roof. Even though these aren't hugely high poly, they're not. I made them pretty low poly. Because we're going to have so many of them, it'll really benefit from hardware instancing inside of Unreal in a Blueprint, which we'll do next week. Again, guys, I really do want to thank you very much for hanging out with me and for watching today. I really do appreciate it. I thank you again for the follows and for the subscription, Zerbian. Again, that's really good of you. Thank you. I will be back again on Monday next week at 5 p.m. Pacific in the United States, 10 a.m. in Australia, 1 a.m. in the UK. I always post to my Twitter page at PhilDoes3D when I'm live, so if you're not following me or you're not a sub like Zerbian, keep an eye on my Twitter page because you'll find out then when I'm live. But my schedule doesn't change. It's every Monday and Tuesday and usually Wednesday. But because the studio is so busy at the moment, I can't do Wednesdays, but certainly every Monday and Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific in the US. And bye to you to Zebian and Johan. Thank you very much. I'm glad you liked the stream. You take it easy, guys, as well. And again, have a great weekend, because I won't see you until after the weekend next week, guys. So hopefully I'll see you guys on Monday next week. You take care. Have a good weekend. Thank you again, everyone that popped into chat. And thanks, guys, for watching. See you guys.